7 things seniors should never say to their doctors, but often do. There's something deeply admirable about the way so many older adults carry themselves. The quiet strength, the resilience built through decades of storms weathered and sacrifices made. The instinct to push through the pain, to smile when it hurts, and to say I'm fine even when things clearly aren't. It's a beautiful kind of bravery, but sometimes it comes at a cost. I've seen it too many times. A sweet, sharp-witted grandfather skipping appointments because he didn't want to make a fuss. A retired teacher waving off chest pains as just indigestion. A widow who hasn't told anyone how lonely she's been, least of all her doctor, because there's no point complaining. These moments don't come from weakness. They come from pride, from humility, from a lifetime of being told not to bother anyone. But in the doctor's office, that silence can turn deadly. You see, there are certain things that get said all the time in checkups and consultations, phrases that sound innocent, even kind. But they can derail care, delay diagnoses, and create a dangerous gap between what's really happening in your body and what your doctor thinks is happening. And the truth is, doctors can only help with what they know. They don't see the stiffness in your joints when you get out of bed. They don't hear the shortness of breath after walking across the room. They don't feel the lump you've been ignoring for weeks. If you don't say it, they don't know it. And if they don't know it, they can't help you. This isn't about calling anyone out, it's about calling something forward. A new kind of courage, not the grit that grinds through pain and silence, but the strength to speak up, to say what's true, even when it's uncomfortable. Because speaking up isn't selfish. It's not annoying. It's not weak. It's wise. It's responsible. It's how you stay independent, how you protect your future, and how you show up for the people who love you. So today, we're going to talk about 7 common things seniors say to their doctors that they shouldn't, not because they're rude or wrong, but because they hide the truth. And we'll talk about what to say instead. Words that open the door to real help, real healing, and real peace of mind. You've earned that. You deserve that. And it starts with something simple: letting your voice be heard. Let's start with one of the most quietly dangerous phrases in the entire world of healthcare. You know the one. A doctor asks how you're doing, and you shrug. Maybe you smile a little and say, "It's nothing really." Maybe you don't even want to bring it up. You tell yourself it's probably fine, it'll go away on its own, and besides, there are sicker people out there, right? But here's the thing. That little phrase, "it's nothing," has hidden heart attacks. It's buried early signs of cancer. It's dismissed sudden weight loss, unusual bleeding, constant fatigue, and even depression. And the worst part is it often comes from a good place. You're trying to be strong. You don't want to seem like you're overreacting. Maybe you were raised to believe that complaining was a weakness. But medicine doesn't deal in politeness. It deals in information. And when you say, "It's nothing," your doctor hears, "This isn't worth exploring." So they move on. Not because they don't care, but because you told them not to worry. Let me tell you something important. Symptoms are never nothing. They are your body's way of speaking up when something's off. A pain that lingers, a bump that wasn't there before. A dizzy spell, a sudden drop in appetite. These aren't annoyances, they're signals. And brushing them aside doesn't make you braver. It just makes it harder to catch things early when they're most treatable. You might think, well, I don't want to bother the doctor over something small. But to a trained physician, even small things can tell a bigger story. That sore back might relate to bone density. That numbness in your toes could be tied to circulation. That nagging cough might be more than just dry air. Instead of saying, "It's nothing, try this." It's probably small, but I wanted to mention it anyway. That one sentence keeps the door open. It invites your doctor to take a closer look. It tells them you're paying attention to your body and that you trust them enough to be honest. You are not wasting anyone's time. Your life, your health, your story, they matter. And if something feels off, even a little, it's always better to speak up. You might just save your own life. This one's sneaky because it sounds true. You feel stiff when you wake up. You forget where you put your glasses. You get tired a little faster than you used to. So when your doctor asks how you're doing, you give a familiar smile and say, "Oh, just getting old." But here's the trap. Aging is real, yes, but it's not a blanket explanation for every ache, every pain, or every change. And when we chalk up every new symptom to age, we risk ignoring issues that are not normal, not harmless, and definitely not inevitable. Pain that disrupts your day-to-day life? That's not just age. Memory issues that go beyond occasional forgetfulness? Not just age. Losing your appetite, struggling to sleep, feeling down all the time? These aren't just the toll of the years. They could be depression, thyroid issues, vitamin deficiencies, or early signs of cognitive decline. And many of those things can be treated if they're recognized. Doctors hear "I'm just getting old" and often have to decide, is this person telling me they're fine? Or are they waving a white flag? Because there's a difference between gracefully accepting aging and quietly surrendering to preventable suffering. You don't have to do that. You shouldn't. What to say instead? Try this. "I've been noticing some changes. Do you think this is typical for someone my age? Or could it be something more?" That opens a real conversation. It gives your doctor permission to dig deeper, to ask better questions, to tailor their care to you, not just your birth year. Let's be honest. Aging will change your body. That's a fact. But it doesn't mean you have to live in constant pain. It doesn't mean your energy should disappear or your mind should fog over. It doesn't mean you stop asking for help when something feels wrong. You've earned the right to thrive in every season of life. You've built a story worth protecting. And pretending that every problem is just old age doesn't protect you. It hides you. And you are far too important to hide. This one breaks my heart every time I hear it. Not just because of what it says, but because of what it really means. Somewhere along the way, maybe from childhood, maybe from years of taking care of others, you were taught to keep quiet, to manage things on your own, to avoid making waves. You were taught to be easy, to be polite, to put yourself last. And now, even in a doctor's office where your health is supposed to come first, that instinct kicks in. You sit down, open your mouth, and instead of describing what's really going on, you smile and say, "I don't want to bother you." But here's the truth. You are not a bother. Doctors didn't spend years studying medicine just to treat the easy cases. They didn't take an oath to care only for the confident, the vocal, or the unafraid. They are there for the messy, the uncertain, the uncomfortable conversations too. That's their job. And your job, your responsibility, is to be your own advocate. Because every time you say, "I didn't want to bother you," what you're really saying is, "I didn't think I mattered enough." And that simply isn't true. Your symptoms matter. Your fears matter. Your voice matters. Maybe you've gone years without asking for much. Maybe you've seen crowded waiting rooms, tired doctors, and thought, "I'll just deal with it myself." But health isn't about being polite. It's about being proactive. Delaying a concern for fear of being a burden can turn a small issue into a big one. That chest discomfort you downplayed, it could have been a warning sign. That small lump you didn't mention, it could have been caught early. That sadness you dismissed, it might have been depression. And depression is just as real and treatable in older adults as it is in anyone else. Here's what you can say instead. "I wasn't sure if this was important, but I didn't want to leave without bringing it up." That simple sentence opens the door. It shows you care about your health. It gives your doctor something to work with, and that's what they need most. Your health isn't an inconvenience. Your presence isn't a problem. You have every right to take up space, to speak up, and to ask the questions you need to ask. Bothering someone is calling about a pothole at 3 a.m. Talking about your health with your doctor, that's called wisdom. This one might feel harmless, almost like a confession whispered with a chuckle. You're sitting in the exam room, the doctor asks, "Have you been taking your medication regularly?" And you reply, "Well, I forgot a few times, but it's fine." Let's pause right there, because it might not be fine. And that's okay to say. Medications only work when they're taken as prescribed. And for many conditions, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, depression, the consistency matters just as much as the dosage. Skipping pills, taking them at the wrong time, or stopping them altogether can send your health into a spiral. It's not just a missed day, it's a missed opportunity to protect your body from bigger problems down the line. Now, I understand why people say this. Sometimes you genuinely forget. Sometimes the side effects are unpleasant and you don't want to complain. Sometimes the medication just doesn't feel like it's doing anything. Or maybe there's shame involved. Feeling like forgetting your meds is a sign of losing control, losing independence. So instead of opening up about it, you brush it off. It's fine, but your doctor can't help you with what they don't. No. If your blood pressure is spiking, they need to know whether it's the meds or the lack of them. If your sugar levels are out of balance, they need to know whether you're taking your insulin or not. If your mood has shifted, they need to know if you've been taking your antidepressant consistently. There's no judgment in that room, only solutions, but only if you're honest. And let me be clear, this isn't about blame. Life gets busy, memory gets foggy, pill schedules get confusing. You're not failing. You're human, so instead of saying, "I forgot, but it's fine," say this: "I've been having trouble staying on schedule. Can we talk about ways to make it easier?" That one question can change everything. It opens the door to pill, organizers, phone reminders, adjusted schedules, maybe even once-a-week options. It turns shame into a plan. The goal here isn't perfection, it's progress, it's empowerment. It's taking control of your health instead of pretending everything's okay when it's not, because you deserve a care plan that works for you. And that starts by telling the truth, even the messy parts. There's nothing wrong with being curious. In fact, it's one of the most powerful tools we have, especially when it comes to our health. And let's be honest, with the internet right at our fingertips, it's only natural to search for answers. You feel a strange pain, and suddenly you're reading article after article. A friend forwards you a Facebook post about a miracle cure. You see a YouTube video promising that eating pineapple can fix everything from arthritis to memory loss. So, you bring it up, maybe a little sheepishly, with your doctor. "Well, I read online that..." And maybe your voice trails off because you're worried they'll roll their eyes or dismiss you. Here's the thing. It's not bad to ask questions. It's not wrong to be informed. But what matters is how you bring that information into the conversation, because the internet is a double-edged sword. For every reputable medical website out there, there are a dozen that spread fear, false hope, or outright nonsense. Some are trying to sell you something. Others are spreading myths dressed up as science. And many are missing critical context, like how a treatment might work for one person, but be dangerous for another. When you say, "I read online that I shouldn't take this medication," your doctor might feel like you're rejecting their expertise without giving them a chance to explain. When you say, "I saw on YouTube that I can cure this naturally," they might wonder whether you're going to stop your prescribed treatment. But when you say, "I read something and wanted your professional opinion," you turn the conversation into a partnership. That's what it should be, not a debate, not a power struggle, a partnership. You deserve to understand your health, you deserve to ask questions, and your doctor deserves the chance to respond with training, with evidence, with your unique medical history in mind. Because no matter how many videos you watch, they weren't made with your body in mind. Here's a better way to bring it up. "I came across something online about this condition. Can you help me understand if it applies to me?" Or even, "I'm confused about something I read and would feel better hearing your thoughts." That's honest. That's respectful. That's how you get real answers without closing any doors. Your curiosity is a strength, but it becomes powerful only when it meets real wisdom. And that happens right there in the exam room. When you speak up, stay open, and let your doctor be your partner, not your opponent. Nobody wakes up in the morning excited to get poked, scanned, or hooked up to machines. Tests can be uncomfortable, time-consuming, even scary. There's the fear of the cost, the fear of the results, the fear of what comes next if something is found. So it's not surprising when someone says firmly or quietly, "I don't want any tests." And sometimes that makes perfect sense. No test should be done blindly. Every test should have a reason. No one should be rushed into anything without understanding what it's for. But here's where things get tricky. refusing tests out of fear alone, without asking questions, without gathering facts, can close doors to life-saving answers. Imagine this. There's a test that could detect colon cancer early when it's treatable, but it's postponed because, well, I don't want any tests. Or maybe there's a heart scan your doctor suggests because you've had chest pressure, but you push it away saying, I'll be fine. These decisions don't always feel urgent in the moment, but looking back, they can change everything. Behind the refusal, there's usually something unspoken. I'm afraid of bad news. Or, I don't want to go through what my friend went through. Or, I don't want to waste anyone's time. And these are real feelings. They deserve space. But they also deserve a response, not silence. Instead of a blanket, no, try this. Can you tell me why this test is necessary and what it could tell us? That question invites clarity. It invites trust. It gives your doctor a chance to explain whether this is routine, preventative, urgent, or just precautionary. It helps you make an informed decision, not a fearful one. If you're worried about cost, ask. If you're scared of the procedure, say so. If you don't understand what the test is looking for, speak up. You have every right to ask questions. You have every right to say yes or no, but let that no come from understanding, not avoidance. Tests aren't the enemy. They're the flashlight in a dark room. They don't create problems, they help reveal them while there's still time to do something about it. And in many cases, the earlier something is found, the easier it is to treat, or even reverse. You are allowed to be cautious. You're allowed to have doubts. But don't shut the door on tools that could save your life. Open the conversation. Ask what the test means, what it might uncover, and how it will affect your care. Because when it comes to your health, knowledge is power, and tests, when done wisely, can offer exactly that. This might be the most common lie ever told in a doctor's office. 2 little words, I'm fine, spoken with a smile, delivered with a calm voice, and often masking a world of fear, pain, confusion, or exhaustion underneath. Seniors say it for 100 reasons. Maybe they don't want to sound dramatic. Maybe they think their problems aren't bad enough to bring up. Maybe they've been through so much that they've come to believe that feeling unwell is just part of the deal now. Or maybe, and this is the one that hurts most, they don't want to seem like they're falling apart. But I'm fine, when you're not fine, doesn't protect you. It doesn't shield your dignity. It doesn't keep you strong. It keeps you silent. And silence in medicine can be dangerous. When you say I'm fine, your doctor checks that box and moves on. Not because they don't care, but because you told them there was nothing to explore. That sadness you've been carrying for months, that overwhelming fatigue, that growing sense that something's just off, it all gets swept under the rug with 2 words, and sometimes it's not even physical. Sometimes what you're holding back is emotional pain, grief that won't lift, loneliness that gnaws at you, anxiety that whispers terrible things at 3 a.m. These things are just as real, just as worthy of care and attention as any broken bone or lab result. But if you say you're fine, they stay hidden. And what stays hidden doesn't heal. So why do people do it? Because admitting something's wrong feels like failure. Because vulnerability is scary. Because for decades many were told to keep it together. But here's a truth no one tells you enough. You don't have to carry it all alone. You don't have to minimize your pain to seem strong. Real strength is saying, I'm not okay and I want to do something about it. What can you say instead? Try. I'm getting through the day, but it hasn't been easy. Honestly, I've been feeling off lately, but I don't know how to explain it. I'm not sure if this is something, but I'd rather talk about it than ignore it. These words don't make you weak. They make you human. They invite help. They show your doctor that you're serious about your well-being, not just pretending for someone else's sake. You deserve a life that's more than just getting by. You deserve to feel heard, supported, and understood. And it starts by telling the truth. Not the polite version, not the brave face, but the real truth about how you're doing. Because if something doesn't feel right, that's not nothing. That's everything, and it's always worth saying out loud. If there's one message that echoes through this entire conversation, it's this: your voice matters, not just in life, but especially in the doctor's office. We've gone through 7 phrases that seem harmless, even respectful, but can actually keep you from getting the care, clarity, and comfort you deserve. Phrases like, "It's nothing really," or "I'm just getting old," or "I don't want to bother you." And maybe you recognized yourself in some of them. That's okay. There's no shame here. Only understanding. Because the truth is, so many of us were raised to be strong, silent, selfless. We were told not to make a fuss, to grin and bear it, to worry about others before we ever worried about ourselves. But in the world of health, silence isn't golden. It's risky. And staying silent to protect someone else's time, feelings, or comfort could cost you years of joy, freedom, and life. Your doctor can't read your mind. They don't see what you don't tell them. They can only help with what they know. And the more honest you are, the better they can guide you, support you, and most importantly, heal you. So if you take anything from this video, let it be this: speak up. If something hurts, say it. If something scares you, share it. If you've been struggling, let someone know. And if something feels off, even if you can't put it into words, bring it up anyway. There is no such thing as a bother when it comes to your health. There is no such thing as being too dramatic, too emotional, or too old to be taken seriously. You deserve to be treated with respect, with care, and with the full attention of the people whose job it is to keep you well. And if you're someone who loves a senior, if you're watching this for your parent, your grandparent, your partner, be the one who encourages the truth. Create space for the real answers. Ask questions gently. Offer support without judgment. Sometimes just knowing someone is listening makes all the difference. You've come this far. You've lived, loved, lost, fought, built, and carried more than most people will ever understand. You've earned a life of clarity and comfort in your health, not confusion and silence. You've earned care that goes deeper than checklists and test results. You've earned the right to be seen, and it all starts with the words you choose. So at your next appointment, take a deep breath and tell the truth. Because your life still matters, your voice still matters, and your story is still being written. Let's make sure it's a healthy one.